Hey Alice, Miss Carnes. I'm here to talk to you about another revision mini lesson that you can use for your poems as you're preparing to turn in your best work coming up soon. So today we're going to talk about metaphors. So when I think about metaphors, I think about the time my parents made me do something that I really didn't want to. And I told you guys, some of you guys, the stories, but I'll just go over it again. So I was in the sixth grade, and at my middle school, track was just for seventh and eighth graders. So you could be on the team as a sixth grader, but you couldn't compete. You could just practice. And I remember hearing about track, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. That sounds good. I know nothing about this sport. I went home, and my parents sat me down. They were like, okay, we're going to join the track team. And I was like, what? I don't even know what this sport is. And they were like, well, too bad. Suck it up. So, I grew up playing soccer and softball as a child. And, like sports are pretty familiar with me, and I consider myself pretty fit. And so I show up to the first day of track. It's just me and maybe like three other sixth graders that I have classes with. Everyone else is older than me. And I remember the coach, his name was Coach Nichols. He was like, all right, everyone, take 2 laps for a warm up. So I'm like, oh, okay, all right. So we go out, and it's the first lap, and I kid you not, y'all. I get to halfway, and I'm already. I'm like stopping. I'm walking. I'm so out of shape. I can't. It's clear that like these 2 warm ups are gonna kick my butt, and it's just the 2 warm ups. I'm so embarrassed. I'm the last person to finish the warm ups. And I go through the rest of practice, but I come home and I'm mortified. And my mom asked me, how was track? And I was like, Mom, it was so embarrassing. My life is going down a drain. And I kept continuing and talking to her about how awful that first practice was and how embarrassed I was. So when I think about metaphors, I think about how you can actually bring to life your writing when you think about your tone and your mood, and how you can actually develop the theme. And so writers choose to use metaphors to impact the tone and mood and help to develop your theme. So as a writer, you might want to ask yourself 2 different questions. One, what is my theme? So what lesson do I want my readers to learn? You also might consider, what is my purpose? What's my purpose of actually sharing this poem? And then you might think, what comparisons should I use to really bring out my theme? Or what comparisons should I use to really bring out my my purpose for writing this? And so when we think about a metaphor, for those of you who are like, Miss Carnes, what's a metaphor? Great question, Newman. So a metaphor is a comparison between 2 things that are not alike. Okay, an example is the snow is a white blanket. Snow is actually not a white blanket. Okay, or the classroom was a zoo. Or all the world is a stage. These are all examples of metaphors. So what I want you to do is I want you to actually watch me as I kind of ask myself these questions and think about how I can add metaphors to my own work. So I have my poem here, and this poem is actually about me kind of like owning my name. When I think about the purpose, um, I really wanted to show my readers that sometimes you can grow into yourself, and confidence is a journey. Like having confidence isn't like you wake up and you're like, okay, I've got all this confidence, feeling good, feeling great. Like part of it's a journey. When I think about the theme, the lesson that I want people to come off of this is I want people to understand to not allow others to determine your faith in yourself or your confidence. People will come and go, and you have to learn how to love yourself at the end of the day. Okay, so this is my poem about how a substitute actually mispronounced my name, and some of you guys might actually have a similar experience. I'm going to go ahead and read along. Go ahead and follow along with me. My name has always had a funny way of tripping people up. The familiar and unfamiliar combination of letters throws off everyone I meet, and despite multiple tutorials, some still struggle. I remember that trusty day of 4th grade. Mr. Bruni was absent, so the vibe at Fairmont Elementary felt strange. The absence of his pitter-patter echoed throughout the yard. Miss Schmitz spoke with unfamiliarity, calling our names in a dutiful fashion, arriving at the C's and pausing. What will it be today? Kamira, or perhaps Kamaria, a closer, more predictable match. Kamaria is what she settles on, glancing around the classroom. Here, I say nervously, It's Kamaria. Oh, she breathes. We will just call you Cammy today, okay? So I'm thinking about how I can actually bring my theme alive and how I can bring my purpose alive by adding metaphors. And the first idea that comes to mind is I'm thinking about how I want to slow down time in this moment where she kind of like gets to my name and I'm like, oh God, she's going to mispronounce it again. And kind of think about maybe what I was feeling in that moment. So I'm going to slow down time here and I'm going to add a metaphor to show how time slowed. I'm going to add, when I think about time, I think about things that move slowly. Ugh. One thing that used to always be in my front yard were gross slugs. So I'm going to write, time was a slug in that moment. Or maybe I might just want to write time was a slug. I think I'm just going to leave it like that. Time was a slug in that moment, okay? So here I'm showing that time was moving slowly, all right? Another area that I might actually want to try adding a metaphor, thinking about this moment. So I'm bringing out the theme that you shouldn't allow others to determine your faith in yourself or your confidence. People will come and go, and you have to learn to love yourself at the end of the day. And just showing that, like, confidence is a journey, right? And so in this moment, I want to show that, like, I want to write more to my poem, but I want to show that, like, in this moment, I was not confident enough to be like, no, lady, my name's Kamaria. This is how it's pronounced, right? And, like, in that moment, I kind of just let her give me a nickname. Like, I didn't know her. And, like, I was so irritated that she just decided, like, oh, I'm just going to name you what I want to. So I'm going to add here kind of like a metaphor to show what I was feeling in that moment. So I'm going to add right after, we'll just call you Cammy today, okay? I'm going to add another stanza. I'm going to write something like, my heart, a lump in my throat. I slid into the navy blue chair. So I'm making this metaphor about my heart being a lump in my throat. So you're going to try the same thing today. You're going to revise for metaphors. I'm going to give you a few tips and tricks on how you can do that. So you're going to go back through your poems and you're going to choose at least 4 places where you can add metaphors. Now, these metaphors don't have to be in the same poem. Maybe you do 1 per each poem, or maybe you put all 4 in one. Maybe you do 6 different places and you add different metaphors, but the idea is that you do at least 4. So when you're thinking about adding a metaphor, you might want to think about feelings. So maybe how can you bring out feelings? Or you might want to think about different places where you can have like visuals. So when I said like my life is going down the drain, like the visual is that like literally life is like swirling down the drain. So you might want to think about those 2 different opportunities to add metaphors. All right, go ahead and get started. Good luck. You're going to be great.